Welcome into another hashtag for the kids covering youth soccer here on the SDH Network. My name's Jason Longshore. Joining me today, Jonathan Cueva of Rockport Soccer. Jonathan, thanks for the time.
Hey, Jason, how you doing? Thank you so much. Absolutely a pleasure to be here on your show.
I'm glad you reached out because I've followed you guys on Instagram for a while, and I see that you're doing things with Atlanta United's Regional Development School and futsal, and I love the growth of futsal in this area. Tell me a little bit about how everything got started for Rockport.
Yes, absolutely. And Jason, to be honest, I appreciate you following us. Definitely, that helps tremendously with the technology now. Makes our lives easier to communicate. So that's a really good thing. Rockport is a little bit of a combination of a dream, maybe an accident, and everything else kind of start happening little by little. But maybe about 4.5 years ago, my business partner and I start talking about creating some form of tournament. So we wanted to do something with tournament.
Okay.
But in that conversation, kind of expressed this idea I've been crafting for a very, very, very long time. And she was absolutely fascinated, and we kind of start looking for facilities. And we found one very affordable one in an industrial complex, perfect to do something like that. And we were able to get the floors, because the floors are a little, per se, tricky. There's no wood, there's no concrete, it's a kind of plastic, but it serves the purpose. So once we started, one of the things that it was clear from the beginning, I want to do something that reflect soccer or street soccer per se.
Right.
I want kind of that vibe, that feeling that there is no a lot of coaching, there's not a lot of cones, there's not a lot of those things that you see today with youth. Is a little more free, is open for creativity. And the main thing and the main feeling I want people, especially the youth, when it comes to play there, is a place when you come and play. You know, sometimes in the soccer practice, you see kids being dragged to the practice because the parents already pay for, people go there because it's like, okay, there's not going to be drills. There's not going to be any form of structural practice. It gives you that a little bit organized street soccer feeling.
Yeah, and this is something I wish, as I was growing up in the mid-'80s here in Atlanta, you didn't really have that culture at all. And I don't know if the United States has truly developed that street soccer culture. Learning about your background, you grew up playing futsal in Ecuador. How important was that experience, setting up your own games, making up your own rules, not really being taught in the same way like we see our very structured coaching sessions here? How has that affected your love of the game?
Well, that's the main principle, because the most important thing, especially when you are ages, I'm going to venture to say 6 to 12, is the environment you grow in. And soccer is just like everything else. Soccer is just like going to ride your bike with your friends. Soccer is just like climbing those trees when you were growing up. Soccer is just playing tag. It's just the same concept. It's the game. And in South America, there are no those amazing soccer fields that you see here. So not even the professional teams, and I venture to say in other parts of the world, are going to have that type of facilities, that type of, you have some youth teams, youth clubs in the state who have access to over, 10, 12 turf fields.
Right.
And you tell me, across the world, who has that luxury? And I mean, there might be some places, but I don't know many. However, the futsal has grown as a sport in a different direction. However, we started playing with the ball that's in bounds, 4v4. Sometimes we didn't have a goalkeeper, and it was played on any type of concrete, any type of basketball court, any type of tennis courts. Tennis courts used to be a popular destination to do that.
Yeah.
And the environment that futsal provides gives you the ABCs of what is going to become later, that creativity was going to become later, that type of player that today we still know as much. I don't know the audience if they can go back to the 80s or 70s where, you have the Brazilians dominating completely and the South Americans later with technology and all the stuff, the Europeans. However, futsal itself took a turn for the good and it grew as a sport. The futsal I played was the street. There was no tactics. There was no of the craziness that you see now with the futsal leagues.
Right.
However, it's still, for many of us who got to play at the first division and some teams came from that background. So that was one of the per se things I wanted to share. And if impact me, I was hoping it can impact other people. I understand the beginning of my business, the beginning of our business, where business partner was absolutely a disaster because people first of all came and say, where are the walls? Where is the turf?
Right.
What is this futsal? And I'm like, no, it's futsal. And they're like, what does that mean? And I was like, it's football de salon, futsal, indoor. And it was crazy hard to sell the product. And now everybody suddenly is doing futsal. Every youth club is offering futsal. And I'm like, okay, where all this came from? So, 4 years ago wasn't like that. So it is really good for us that the sport is growing. At least the recognition of the brand and the thing is picking up. But, it's still, we are masters in turning everything into the financial benefit and also to start structuring. And that's the difference right there. Like when you come to Rockport, I can promise you it's going to be a very nice street ball game. Coaching is there, but it's not going to be that type of environment where everything is controlled by the coach and everything has the cone running here, running there kind of thing. It is a little bit of almost the kids building their own teams, which is amazing.
Yeah, and that's something that, we've had to sacrifice in the game in a lot of ways. You don't have kids playing out in the backyard or playing out on the street like they used to. You have very organized times that they get a chance to play, but then a lot of the sessions, a lot of the activities are also very organized, and kids can at times lose that creativity. And I think a player that a lot of people are incredibly familiar with and have loved over the years is a guy like Ronaldinho, who is so obviously a futsal player. I mean, it's obvious in the way he sees the game and feels the game that he grew up and became what he did because of his time playing futsal.
Yeah, absolutely. And not going too far away, you can see the line of Argentines going through Atlanta United.
Yeah.
And Barcos, for example, every time I see him playing, I can promise you he is a fantastic futsal player. Though he used his toes like nobody else. He step on the ball, a small space. I mean, he can find that pass between 3 or 4 people around him. So even though he probably didn't play the futsal that is super organized, but you can see he had that type of beginning in the way of playing. So definitely that develops the player, but also what is important is the creativity of the player, though. And nowadays, tactically speaking, the 4-3, 4-3-3, the 4-4-2, and so many formations. But what can you do with a player who's going to pull a trick out of the sleeve and do something crazy? And those are as a coach, you're afraid of, because they might have one player like that. And futsal provides that, but also the freedom. And that's one of the major components of the business, is to say, yes, we have a league, we have different programming, different things. We do offer training and everything, but the the background is going to be more in the sense of freedom for the player, especially the young ages.
Yeah, it's creating a platform for the kids, the players, to own the game. And look, I mean, you've played professionally. You watch the game at a high level. Anybody listening to this knows that. What does it come down to so often in a match? A 1v1 situation, a player having to solve a problem, solve a 1v2, find that killer pass, find that way to get around a defender for a shot. Futsal is what facilitates so much of that, and it's something that the American game just hasn't had enough of. Facilities like yours are so important for that. You mentioned early on that it's been tough at first it was tough to kind of get people to understand it. How has that changed, and what kind of, people, families, who are you getting to come in and play at Rockport?
Well, there's two answers for that question. First of all, one is the marketing, though. So marketing, as any business, is a huge component of selling the product. And what we found this year, we have people from all over the place. So within our facility located in Gainesville, we have people coming from Blairsville, which is an hour and a half away. We have people from the metro area, can be Lawrenceville, can be Duluth, a little bit down North Cross, Gwinnett County type of people. So we found two, per se, customers. We found the first clubs, youth clubs, who are looking something to do in the winter. So, originally, I don't think they're looking to, oh my gosh, we're going to go do a futsal league. They're just looking for something to do. And then they find us and we provide competition, we provide the league. And then we have the ones I enjoy the most because for the club, for the soccer club, for us is what we call recruitment season. We found players who come from different areas, from around Gainesville, from around Oakwood, that part of Georgia per se, that are not belonging to an organized club in the sense of, a youth club.
Right.
So they are truly very street soccer players. So they have no formation per se in developing with a paid coach and going to practice. Basically what they do is a volunteer person bring these kids. I don't know where they get them, to be honest with you, but those are the absolutely magical moments where you realize, and it's kind of funny because with my business partner, sometimes we laugh. It's like, okay, that team who have no idea who they are just scored 10 goals in these other teams who I can guarantee you the parents are paying at least $3,000. So it's one of those aha moments like, okay, so that is the magic in the league. Then, we have programming. I was able to get in touch with Atlanta United, and that is absolutely an amazing combination because they are getting players and kids who might not have access to the high level training. And on the same token, Atlanta United is kind of exploring a little bit the opportunity to do soccer practices in a futsal facility, but it's still being forced to combine some kind of futsal component.
Right. Tell me how that partnership came about with Atlanta United's Regional Development School.
That was, to be honest with you, I do futsal and I do soccer, so I'm involved with Linear Soccer Association. So I do get to know them because we do have a DA program, and the U13, U14, our boys play against them. So due to that circumstance, I build a relationship. And I got an email one time saying there's these RDS programs. I investigate, and I make one phone call and I say, hey, I have this idea, and I'm very thankful they listened to that. They came to see the facility, and 3 months later, there we are, and they do it every Friday. Is, like I say, is absolutely amazing what they do. Not from the perspective of the player, but also for the education of those coaches who may one day want to be coaches. So one of the things I do with the coaches of my youth teams, U9, U10, they come to those sessions to see some of those practices though. And I kind of joke and I say, okay, look at that session, write it down and take it, run with it. So it is beneficial in every aspect that you can imagine, because where the part of town we are, sometimes access to this type of high level coaches is hard to get. So it is absolutely great in every angle you see it.
Yeah, I've seen it from the outside, whether it's calling high school state championship games and seeing teams from Gainesville, more teams from Lanier Soccer Association, and some unaffiliated teams popping up out of the Gainesville area. How much has the area changed in terms of soccer in recent years?
Well, it has become more organized. It has become more competitive. I've been lucky enough to work on the grassroots in town with different people who are very, very influential. Mm-hmm. So I will say we're still behind if we compare with different other places. But one of the things is Gainesville and the whole county area is a golden mine, and the talent producing and the talent around is absolutely amazing. So you might have other clubs in the metro area that have about 60 to 70 U9 players coming to try out. I get 13 and 14, and I pick them all. Right. And we become very competitive to produce a DA team. We compete against Atlanta United, and I did another interview, and I say on paper we shouldn't be able to even be close, but we're competing. And that talks volumes of what we're doing here. However, the state of the game in Gainesville is growing, and people start understanding some basic key components of what it takes to build and to produce players. So with a little bit of the experience I have growing up and be lucky enough to have I was around people who fully masters in the game, trying to implement some of those concepts, because even though soccer is not universal, every country, every player is going to see soccer differently. And I believe soccer express and is a cultural expression. I think here in Gainesville, we're trying to find that identity of, okay, how we're going to do this. And the beautiful thing is be yourselves. And I think futsal is a perfect fit because it does reflect that a little bit rebellious side of, I don't really want to have these many cones in my practice. I just want to play. And at the end of the day, I believe the best teacher is the game.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think wherever the game can teach a player, it needs to. Coach can kind of be the guide along the way, but over coaching is a real issue. I think in the U.S. especially. What are some of the things that you think are needed, whether it's in Gainesville or across the state, for soccer to continue to take that next step?
I go back to being lucky enough to have able to play against other countries. Being teammates with different nationalities. And the beautiful thing of soccer, and that's what the World Cup is such an amazing time, that you see expression of how you live. So, you have a Brazilian team and they are literally portraying their culture through the game. You see the Argentines, completely showing how the culture of the Argentina people is. So I think the biggest problem we have in here is we try to be somebody else. So the soccer question is solved with the cultural answer. And I'm okay because I have teams who might not be very pretty technically or tactically, but they were successful. And I'm okay having that cultural principle involving, because it's easy. I can't, to be honest, go back to South America and run a practice like I probably do here. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna be laughing. They're gonna be laughing because some of the things you do here might not work in other places, and some things that work in other places might not work here. However, the main thing is finding ourselves and being in the sense of culturally how we're gonna fix that problem. So finding ourselves first and saying, yes, it's fine to do that and to move forward with our identity first. And a lot of times we make the mistake trying to be somebody else. And, when Germany, when Spain, when Brazil were world champions, then immediately we changed to that. And now you hear about the French method. I remember in the early 2000s, you hear about the Brazilian. Right. So you heard the rondo. And that rondo rondo since my dad played. I mean, It's nothing new.
Yeah,
but
it's keep away. I mean, everybody's done it, but
suddenly became the answer.
Done right.
Became the answer to that.
Yeah.
So the main thing is, one of the things I always admire from an outsider is the power of the colleges and universities here producing athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So not really going away to another sport, but in soccer, the 1994 World Cup team, they made it to the quarterfinals against Brazil and lost 1-0. And they were a product of the college game.
Right.
And now we are going away from that and let the result speak. I'm not criticizing. However, why we try to solve the problem trying to be somebody else?
I think that's the key. That's a really good point that I think at times American soccer doesn't talk about enough. What is the U.S. game? And I feel like it should draw on some of the things you mentioned. I mean, I think you've had over the years a heavy German influence. You obviously have a big English influence in the game in the United States. But, I've always felt like the Latin influence, which I think a lot of people lump together, but the influence from Mexico is different than the influence from Colombia, which is different than the influence from Argentina. But we haven't found the right mix of all of that truly represents the United States. And it feels like we try to just copy what is the hot style of the time. By the time the U.S. gets to a point where it's comfortable in copying that style, the style changed because that's what happens. The French had a run where they won a World Cup. Then Brazil won a World Cup. Then Italy won a World Cup. Then Spain won a World Cup. And they're all so different. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, with my Brazilians, Argentines friends, Uruguayans friends, you can't. I mean, there's no way you can tell a Brazilian in a style of playing because they will never, ever say yes. Ever. No matter what. And guess what? They're going to wait 20 years because last time they won the World Cup was in the 70s, and then they went until 1994 to win again. But guess what? They never left that mentality, philosophy, style of playing. And that tells you is a culture. You can't change. Right. Here, you go to the C license in 2007, and then you go back to the B license in 2013, and everything has changed. And It's like, okay, what happened? Like in 2007, I was told never do this, never use the whistle. I always laugh about it because in my practice, I end up with my voice gone because I was just screaming. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to use the whistle. And I was the only coach in the park, and people would be like, you are so weird using the whistle. But, it's one of those things when you're like, I mean, I understand maybe why not. You want to run away from football and doesn't want to look too, but it really sounds silly. But what, as a country, as a culture, the U.S. have been successful is creating athletes through the pipeline of the college and universities, though. And that is culture. There's no other place in in the world that's going to give you a full right education for you as an athlete. So it is proven. We don't have to see data or search for numbers. It's out there. You name it. Any master pass athlete came from some form of college or university recruitment athletic program. And can soccer adjust to that and just being what is being taught, at that, and not going too far away. Those World Cups where the U.S. was absolutely, I thought, very successful. They lost against, Germany 1-0 in that World Cup, and that was the Korea, Japan, and the Asian World Cup. Right, they beat Portugal with Ronaldo and everything on the other side, and a very well played game. So we are trying to run away from that, and we can say whatever we can say now, but I don't know. Are we running away from culture, trying to fight culture, or can culture be the solution of that?
It's a great question, and it's something that I think a lot of people in soccer in this country have to start asking themselves. Identity in the way a team plays, like it's obvious at a club level. You see certain clubs have certain ideas of the way they see the game. In the United States, there's never been one coherent way. Probably the only time there was when the game was very small and there just wasn't a whole lot of other influences in it. Now, with MLS, with the USL Championship, with games from all over the world on TV at any time of day, it's like we get a little bit of everything, but we don't really get one way out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, don't get me wrong, this question and this argument happens everywhere.
Of course.
In the 90s, late 90s, and a little bit in the 2000s, when Dunga in Brazil took over the national team, that was the conversation. He wanted to transform a little bit of that, type of, and that was a big, huge argument where, we need to change. Why would we need to change? So it happens everywhere. It happens absolutely everywhere. The question in Argentina. Imagine if here in the U.S. we have those two number 9s. We have Messi and we have Kun Agüero. Imagine that problem. Who do I play? With those players, it's still a little behind in those kind of things. So it is everywhere. It's not just here, but one thing, it doesn't happen in other places. They don't question their culture per se. And yes, the melting pot is going to be hard to try to find one style, and it's going to evolve, but it has to come from how things are done here. And, it's not easy, but it's been proven in other sports. It's been proven, and I believed, if we can produce the best athletes, let's just keep doing that and add that, the goals and the ball, and see how that works. And, the progress and the growth of the game here in the U.S. is absolutely amazing. If you told me 10 years ago that Atlanta United is going to have more people in their game than a Georgia Bulldog game, I would be laughing. So it's absolutely a great time, and I think eventually things are going to fall in place, and hopefully we can see great results coming up on the world stage.
It's exciting to be kind of in the middle of it now, and I think all of us who love the game are really looking forward to what's to come. What you're doing in Gainesville is a huge part of that. For people who are interested in the culture of the game that you're creating and interested in learning more about futsal, let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is just go to our website, rockportsoccer.com, and you'll be able to see all the programming we have, all the leagues we do, and everything we do. And you can either send us an email or just give us a phone call. But the easiest way is going to be the website. And it's funny because at the beginning I want to call Rockport Futsal, but when we do the market research, people were like, nobody's going to even know. Like, they're going to think you're selling kitchen products or something. So
yeah, that's actually very, very smart.
yeah, so we kept the soccer component, but yeah, absolutely is the easiest way to find us.
I am making sure right now that I'm liking you on the places I wasn't liking it, so now I'm fully connected. Thank you for so much, Jonathan, for reaching out. We will definitely chat again because the culture around the game is just such an underrated part of what I think can take American soccer to the next level, and more people doing what you're doing and creating a place for that culture to grow is really, really important. So, as somebody who loves the game, thank you for doing what you do.
I appreciate Jason. I appreciate your show. We'll definitely chat again because this conversation, like I say, normally I don't have a lot of opinion about when it comes to this type of philosophical questions and the thinking of these and combining soccer with so many things that comes in life is absolutely exciting. So, and whenever you're around and if you want to come and check the facility, especially with having a game, I can promise you it's going to be one of those things where you will feel, and that's the magic of the place. Like those games, the intensity of those games and the vibe of the games are absolutely amazing.
I'll be coming up to visit for sure. Thanks for the time, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Jason. You have a wonderful day.